There's no standard definition of what makes a good wife and mother, and in the world of Dragon Ball, there are only a few women that have displayed their relationships with their family. Despite this, we will explore the 4 most prominent wives of Dragon Ball today. But what if someone told you that Android 18 is actually the most suited to raise a child? And what if you were told that Android 18 is the closest thing to a perfect Dragon Ball wife? Well, for today's video, we will explore the various ways that puts Android 18 above the rest. So for our first subject of comparison, we have one of the most basic elements in raising a child, and this is the ability to physically protect young like a wild animal. 18 is easily the strongest wife on our list, but also has the weakest husband in Krillin as compared to Gohan, Goku, and Vegeta. Despite this, however, if a threat were to endanger a child, Bulma wouldn't be able to physically make a big difference. And in terms of Videl and Chi, compared to normal humans, these women would excel in protecting their young, but in the ultra-violent world of Dragon Ball, Android 18 is in a class of her own. And of course, you could always say that no one needs a wife when their husbands are so powerful. And while that might be true in the case of Gohan, Vegeta, and Goku, if we base this argument strictly on the capabilities of the mother independent of her husband, 18 easily gets the crown. Especially when you consider the fact that she is stronger than Krillin, which makes her more valuable to her family's safety than Videl, Chi and Bulma would be. So for protection, 18 wins this hands down. Now, for our next subject of comparison, we have empathy. And for those of you who don't know, empathy is a person's ability to understand the feeling and emotions of another individual. But which of these characters would be best at understanding someone's feelings and emotions? Well, every single woman on this list besides 18 grew up in a pampered and abundant lifestyle. 18 was stated to be a delinquent to whom Dr. Gero selected with her brother, and after this she was forcibly turned into a cyborg and was given abilities that made her a supervillain. After this, 18 changed her ways, married Krillin, and had a daughter to whom she wants to have a far better life than she ever did. It's the old cliche that you want your child to be better than yourself. And when we look at the Tournament of Power and how Android 18 played with Marin in the manga, we truly see how she aims to make her child's life as safe and great as it can possibly be. Now when you compare this to Bulma, who grew up insanely wealthy, Chi, who was the daughter of the Ox King, and Videl, who was the daughter of Mr. Satan, this truly isn't a real comparison. Now, this isn't to say that they can't relate to the emotions of a child, but 18 is theoretically and practically the most suited to deal with empathy. And this is why Android 18 gets the nod for empathy. Moving on, we have the subject of finances, and right away Bulma and Videl are instantly leagues above 18 and Chi to the point where this is an absurd comparison. But as far as Chi goes, her financial management has been strong with Goku, with him only having an intermittent job as a radish farmer and living off of what the Ox King earned. But honestly, her family's finances aren't as necessary when she can always borrow money to support her family, and when her living expenses aren't that great living in East District 439. But when we move on to Android 18, despite being a housewife, she has been shown taking money insanely serious when it comes to hustling Mr. Satan, being bribed by Bulma, and fighting in the Tournament of Power for money. And while she has been shown to have a very high spending habit on clothes, she understands the value of money very well. But due to Android 18's very high spending habits, in addition to simply making a lot less than the others, Bulma easily wins this award for being the most financially stable. But as we move on to our next subject, one issue that parents often struggle with is the division between too much freedom and too much discipline. Chi easily gets the title of being a tiger mom and way further on the discipline spectrum than anyone else. And this isn't a bad thing, as it helped Gohan become a successful scholar and taught her sons how to have strong core values. On the other hand, present Bulma is obviously too far on the freedom spectrum, as present Trunks is spoiled to the point where it facilitated a narcissistic personality, and in many ways Trunks' behaviors have had a negative effect on Goten. So this means the true debate is between Android 18 and Videl when it comes to balancing freedom and discipline. And honestly, this is a tight comparison. Videl stated in Super that she would support Pan regardless of if she chooses to be a fighter or not. 18 has been shown to splurge on shopping habits, and if 18 was as wealthy as Videl, who knows how much she would blow her money. And in the case of Pan, despite coming from a very wealthy family, she has been shown to have a very humble personality at the end of Dragon Ball Z as compared to Marin. So when it pertains to balancing freedom and discipline, Videl gets the award here. However, as we finally move on to our last subject of comparison, we are going to analyze how effective each mother would be at raising a child with any potential spouse, including their own. Starting with Android 18, she has the most normal lifestyle in Dragon Ball. Marin doesn't have super abilities, and Krillin isn't as evolved as Vegeta, Gohan, or Goku are when it comes to fighting villains. And because of this, 18 has a keen ability to raise a child with a strong spouse while also creating a normal lifestyle if she were to date a normal man. And when you compare this to Chi, Videl, and Bulma, who have to live with the complexity of raising Saiyan hybrids, this definitely gives Android 18 the ability to balance out who she could possibly be with. An example to illustrate this would be, what if Android 18 raised a Saiyan child? So in theory, let's say Android 18 hooked up with Goku, Gohan, or Vegeta. With her abnormally powerful abilities, she would be able to understand a Saiyan's fighting potential more so than the other women, and she could even train her own kids and bring out their potential even greater as opposed to what the other Saiyan women wives would be able to do. For Videl, she greatly benefits from having Piccolo to look after a child that can fly into outer space, and for Bulma, her devices can help her children to an extent, but she herself cannot relate to her actual children in terms of their abilities. And as far as Chi goes, we obviously can use Chi as an example of not having the ability to really look at her children's abilities and truly relate, as she is the biggest outcast out of all 4 women. But how do these theoretical scenarios benefit Android 18's child? Well, if Android 18 had a normal child in the case of Krillin, she could stay at home and raise the child as a productive housewife. You could even argue that if she was the wife of a character like Gohan, that she would be able to balance a normal life while instilling discipline and training. And this is exceptional for Gohan in a very specific case, because if Android 18 was the wife of Gohan, Gohan would be able to focus solely on actually going to work, and 18 could be training the child while also taking care of the child at the same time. And compared to Videl, 18 could push her child significantly more in terms of their fighting potential than Videl would be able to do with a quarter Saiyan like Pan, if Pan wanted to be a fighter. And for Saiyan men, 18 may be a good sparring partner even outside of the bedroom if the husband actually wanted to test their fighting abilities. And with Android 18 becoming more powerful, this makes the world significantly more protected against future threats. So when you break this down both weak and strong, male or female, or employed or unemployed, 18 is by far the most flexible partner out of all of the 4 prominent female characters in this video. Proof of this stems from the fact that 18 and Krillin seem to live happily with Roshi, who was a notorious pervert for many years. And this all suggests that 18 looked past his perverted tendencies for the benefit of Marin having a safe home. So when you truly look at it, there are not many men or women that would be able to deal with both super powerful children and normal children the way that Android 18 could. So for all of these reasons combined with her unselfishness, 18 wins the award for the most compatible spouse out of all 4 women. So overall, when it comes to protecting young, empathizing with children, and adapting to different spouses, Android 18 is the winner of 3 out of 5 key categories. And while she might not have the financial support as a Bulma does, or have the balance that Videl might have when it comes to balancing discipline with freedom, she is both theoretically and literally the closest approximation to the perfect Dragon Ball mother. And while we're on the subject of Dragon Ball women, check out the Bulma vs Dr. Gero Genius debate anime to go more in depth about who's more intelligent, or check out What If Goku Married Bulma and Vegeta Married Chi-Chi to get a what if scenario, or 15 facts about Android 17 and 18 to get a more informative type of video. And until next time, stay cool and stay safe, my friends.